Did you know 1/3 of human caused greenhouse gas emissions are related to the food sector? Wait, did I just hear it right? Food sector? Yes, through livestock, fisheries, crop production, land use changes, and food processing, the food sector contributes to nearly 34% of anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. The food produced per person today is more than ever recorded. There are fewer people cooking at home. Large environmental costs are associated with the intensified and specialized food industry. Food has never been cheaper and easier to obtain. Food production, processing, transportation, and waste generation all contribute to the release of greenhouse gases that trap heat in the atmosphere and contribute to climate change. Major greenhouse gases released by the food system include carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. Carbon dioxide is released during various stages of food production and transportation. Methane, a potent greenhouse gas released from sources like livestock digestion, rice cultivation, and landfills within the food system. Nitrous oxide, another potent gas, is emitted from agricultural activities, particularly from the use of synthetic fertilizers and crop production. The highest greenhouse gas emissions within the food system occur in the production stage, particularly livestock production and crop cultivation. Livestock, especially ruminants like cattle and sheep, produce methane through enteric fermentation during digestion. Beef requires 20 times more land and emits 20 times more greenhouse gas emissions per gram of edible protein than common plant proteins such as beans. Beef has one of the highest carbon footprints with 60 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent per kilogram. This means that for every kilogram of a product, 60 kilograms of carbon dioxide or its equivalent in other greenhouse gases are emitted during its production and life cycle. Cheese also has a significant carbon footprint, with 21 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent per kilogram. Poultry production contributes to emissions as well, with 6 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent per kilogram. These foods, particularly animal based products like beef and cheese, have higher carbon footprints compared to plant based foods due to factors like intensive farming practices, land usage, and methane emissions from livestock. Raising animals for food takes up half of all water used in the United States. According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, methane is the largest contributor of greenhouse gases in the US, which is particularly from livestock and their waste. Conventional cropping degrades soil health, causing soil erosion and leads to runoff of excess nutrients into waterways. Use of synthetic fertilizers in crop production also contributes to nitrous oxide production. Manure decomposition in confined animal feeding operations also generates methane and nitrous oxide emissions. Deforestation for agriculture, especially for livestock grazing and crop cultivation, releases stored carbon into atmosphere. Converting natural ecosystems into agricultural land significantly contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. In 2018, 30 million acres of tropical rainforest were lost, largely due to these practices. Nearly two-thirds of the emissions from the global food systems come from land-based sectors, comprising agriculture and land use changes. This figure being higher in developing countries. Food and Agriculture Organization research highlights how the global food systems are being more energy intensive. Emissions are rapidly growing in retail, packaging, transport, and processing sectors in the food industry. Industrialized countries have increased emissions of fluorinated greenhouse gases, which have a turbocharged effect on global warming. Here, we are talking about refrigeration, which is responsible for almost half of the energy consumption by the retail and supermarket sector. Globally, cold chain activities account for around 5% of global food system emissions. Packaging now contributes to 5.4% of global food system emissions. Such emission intensity varies depending on the product. Bananas may have higher transportation emissions than emissions caused by its packaging, while for wine, the packaging impact is more significant. When food is discarded, all the resources invested in its production, processing, transportation, and storage are wasted. This waste generates significant carbon dioxide emissions throughout these stages, and when the food decomposes in landfills, it produces methane, a potent greenhouse gas. According to the current projections, global food demand is expected to increase by 35 to 56% between 2010 and 2050. This surge will have significant implications for greenhouse gas emissions from food production. The countries with highest greenhouse gas emissions from food consumption are China, the United States of America, India, Brazil, and Russia. Together, these top five greenhouse gas emitting nations were responsible for more than 40% of the global food supply emissions in 2019. China alone emitted 2.4 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent from its food system in 2019, with half of these emissions occurring at the production stage. The United States and the European Union are also major contributors of food related greenhouse gas emissions with high per capita emissions. India's food system is a significant source of global greenhouse gas emissions, particularly from livestock production and rice cultivation. Brazil's emissions are largely driven by deforestation for agriculture, especially for beef production and soya cultivation. Russia's emissions primarily come from livestock production and crop cultivation. The food systems are responsible for more than a quarter of global greenhouse gas emissions, with animal based food contributing 58% of the food related emissions, despite providing only 37% of our protein and 18% of our calories. This statistics highlights the disproportionate impact of animal agriculture on food-related greenhouse gas emissions compared to the relatively small contribution to human nutrition. But there's hope. Making informed choices about the foods we consume can help reduce the overall carbon footprint associated with our diets. Reducing food waste, shifting towards plant based diets, and promoting sustainable agricultural practices are crucial steps in mitigating the impact of food related greenhouse gas emissions on the environment. Together, we can make a difference. By understanding the impact of our food choices and taking action, we can contribute to a more sustainable and climate friendly food system. Stay tuned. We'll be making a video on eating habits that can help mitigate climate change. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insights on how we can protect our planet.